do it. Well, thank you, Cord, for talking to me about American fiction, man. I saw you a few days ago at the Middleburg Film Festival. Tell me, how was your first experience at the festival?
I loved it. I mean, I had never, I actually went to college in Virginia, but I had never been to that part of the state, and
Yeah,
certainly not that part of the state in October. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And I also just loved that, I really like that uh it's about the films. It's like people there who want to see movies, and it
yeah,
just felt like, you know it's not about red carpets, and it's not about sort of like the big glitz and glamour parties. It's about like people who just like want to see movies and talk
yeah.
about art. And so like I always appreciate that. I'm not a glitz and glam guy, not necessarily myself. I'm a dude from Tucson, Arizona. So it's like those kind of, I get around horses and nature and just sort of like walking around outside. That always puts me at ease.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a really great experience. It was good to see you there. Let's talk about American fiction. I absolutely love this film.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah, it's really great. What made you want to adapt Erasure? Because it's a book came out more than 20 years ago. What made you think that this story needs to be told right now?
Just because it was because, as you said, it's more than 20 years old, but these are conversations that I've been having for equally as long. I started out in before I was in film and television, I started out in journalism, and I wrote an article called the Racism Beat toward the end of my journalism career, that was just all about how I had ended up in this situation where people were coming to me about like, Trayvon Martin was killed. Why don't you write about that? And like, Mike Brown's been killed. Why don't you write about that? And somebody said this racist thing about Obama. Why don't you write about that? And it was just like, it just started to feel like, oh, is this all that I have to offer? Is this the most interesting thing to you about me? Is this the most interesting thing to you about Black people in general? And so when I got into film and TV, I thought that I had left all that behind. And then people came to me and said, do you want to write about this slave? Do you want to write about this gang member? Do you want to write about this drug dealer? And it felt like, oh, I thought I had sort of like, I had thought I had escaped all that stuff. I thought that
Yeah.
sort of like, now that I was working in the world of fiction, I could do whatever I wanted to do and write about whatever I wanted to write. But I realized quickly that there was still really this limited perspective as to what Black life looked like and what Black people were interested in a way that I was like, oh, this feels bad. And so
Mm.
I found that book in December of 2020 after a particularly difficult year, and I just wrote it on spec. I didn't sort of like shop it around. I just felt like this really speaks to me in a very deep way, and I want to try to make it into a movie. So I went and asked Percival for the rights, and he gave them to me for free for 6 months. He said, go ahead and write the script, and if anything comes of it, then you can pay me then. And so it was just a thing that I wasn't doing for any business reason. I wasn't doing to satisfy any sort of like entity. I wasn't going to take it around to pitch it to people. I just wanted to write this script, and it almost like writing the script was cathartic enough. Like, obviously I wanted to get it made, but just putting these feelings down on paper was sort of like also felt good on its own.
Yeah, and like you said, these are conversations that we as Black creatives have had for years. When I was trying to describe it to a friend of mine who was asking me about the film, when I said it kind of fits in the same family as Hollywood Shuffle and Bamboozled and movies like that.
Absolutely.
And I feel like even though the word isn't really used in the movie, the word sellout kept popping up in my head.
Yeah.
Like what do you give? Do you sell yourself out to tell these stories to give the market what it wants? You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, just to give you a sort of like a, obviously, yes, Hollywood Shuffle. Like, I watched Hollywood Shuffle when I was a kid, and it blew my mind. I think it was like the first time that I feel like
Me too.
I ever noticed satire, or maybe it's the first time that sort of like satire had ever really resonated with me. But
Yeah.
but beyond that, when we were auditioning actors for Agnes, for Leslie Uggams' role, uh, we auditioned an actor who was in, this woman in her 70s, and they, before she started her audition, they said, do you have any questions for Cord? And she said, no, I don't have any questions. I just want to tell you that I can't believe they're letting you make this movie. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, because I'm in my 70s, I've been in this industry for over half a century, and you are saying everything that we've been saying for more than 50 years. And like, they're letting you say that in this movie. And it felt like, it felt like, I felt like very sort of, it was one of the biggest compliments that I received on the film, but it also made me feel, you know, it made me feel like I am just in such debt to people like her, and to people like Robert Townsend and Keenan Ivory Wayans, and to people like Spike Lee, who sort of like, really sort of like went through what they went through, and went through this sort of like indignities that they surely faced and the difficulties that they surely faced, so that I could be here 50 years later sort of making this film. So it is, it is strikingly relevant, and unfortunately it has always been strikingly relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, does that come with like a whole lot of pressure that you put on yourself?
The real pressure that I felt was the pressure that to not ruin this book that I loved.
Right.
I really felt like I said, like this book spoke to me in a way that no other piece of art had spoken to me before. It just resonated with me so deeply, like I felt it in my gut. And so that's really what I felt. I was terrified that I was going to take this thing that I loved and destroy it, and sort of like and not do it justice. And so sort of that's where I felt the pressure is like, this thing means so much to me, and I don't want to make it into something that I didn't do. I did a disservice to the art that came before it. So that's really where I felt the pressure.
That's interesting because you do make changes to the screenplay that aren't in the book, from what I
Yeah.
can remember. There's one
Yeah.
one really great scene between Thelonious Monk, played by Jeffrey Wright, and Centaura, played by
Yeah.
Ray. Well, I don't think they meet at all in the book.
No. When I was reading the novel, I was very, very excited for that scene. I was like, oh, this is going to be great, because it's going to be sort of like this explosive discussion about like their different thoughts and ideologies
Yeah.
about art, and sort of like what it means to be a Black artist. And it never came. And so when I sat down to write the script, I knew immediately like that I needed to include that scene, because I had been craving it so much that it felt like really important to me to include. So yeah, that's a big. There's like a bunch of big changes. Is
Yeah.
in the book, Lisa, his sister, is murdered. So like that has to change. And then also in the book, his father isn't just having affairs, but his father, in fact, has a secret family, or had a secret family. And so Monk actually travels up to Brooklyn to meet this like half sister that he never knew he had. So there's just all this kind of, this stuff that like goes in these different directions. You have to streamline in order to sort of like make an under 2 hour movie that you can't include. But the thing that I showed it to Percival. That was one of the most terrifying screenings that I've had. And the thing that Percival said is, he said that, the thing that I really like about it is that you took the book and sort of made art that feels like unique unto itself, and feels like that it's your own thing. Like, you didn't try to make a carbon copy of my novel. You like clearly were inspired by it, and then went and made a piece of art that kind of stands on its own. And
Yeah.
that's one of the best compliments I received.
Yeah, and that's kind of necessary anyway, just because we said, like, so the book was written 20 years ago. You do kind of need to update it anyway.
Exactly.
One of the things I really liked about it is that, because it's addressing this issue of, a system that wants like this one particular interpretation of Black life. And American fiction is not any one thing. Like, it's a lot of different things. It's family drama, family comedy, satire. It's just a lot of different things. You can't just pigeonhole it as one kind of movie. That's one of the things I think is one of the most, and the thing that sprung to me, like, this is the main reason why I like it. Like, it's attacking this issue front on, just in the way that it's conceived.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that for me, like, uh, life isn't one thing, like I wanted this movie to feel like life, and like, life is, frequently in the same day, like comedy and tragedy. And there's a range of emotions that are constantly happening to all of us. And so to me, it feels inauthentic to have comedy without drama, and vice versa. Like that is, if you want, I understand people who just want to make purely comedic movies, and people who want to make super dark dramas, like that's totally fine. And I like a lot of those movies, but
Yeah.
for me, I was trying to capture life, and sort of like my life is all these things, and it's sort of, even when I've dealt with like professional difficulties and racism and all these other issues, I've still found ways to laugh and enjoy myself,
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to make a movie, despite I understand these are serious issues, like issues of race are serious, and issues of class and identity, and all these subjects are very serious, and I get it, and like there are serious consequences, sometimes fatal consequences, but in fact, I don't think that we need to be self-serious about these things. In fact, I think that like it's because of their seriousness that we need to find ways to like laugh and enjoy ourselves and celebrate, because we can't just be miserable all the time. If you sort of like, it's that laughing to keep from crying thing. And so, in fact, it's like more important to me that we sort of like find ways to laugh about these things, because we're resilient people. And that's like sort of like the greatest thing about human beings. And one of the things that I think like the Black community shares with Asian people and queer people and Jewish people and sort of like a lot of other oppressed people is that despite the hardships of that these communities have faced, they've always found ways to make music and fall in love and celebrate and persevere. And so I sort of I want to reflect that and sort of in this film.
Before we go, I got to talk about the cast, obviously, which is tremendous all the way around. But I was wondering if, when you were writing it, did you have Jeffrey Wright in mind? I mean, you guys, at least in those two pictures right here, you and that picture, you kind of look like brothers right there.
Dude,
but,
I basically have become Jeffrey Wright.
Role yourself.
I've realized over the course of these 3 years, I've essentially morphed into Jeffrey. And I think that I at least have to have, people have to give me credit. What other director becomes their actor in order to sort of support the film? I've become Monk and Jeffrey.
Exactly. but did you have Jeffrey Wright in mind?
Oh yeah, I had Jeffrey Wright in mind so early that I started reading the novel in his voice. Before I'd even sat down to write the script, I started reading the scenes with Monk in them as Jeffrey Wright. Like that's how early I wanted him. Yeah.
Oh man, absolutely perfect. Well,
and everybody, and like then it's and then the rest of the cast we get. I didn't think that I was, after we got Jeffrey, because he's the first and only person we went to. After we got him, I thought, well, that's the end of that. Like, good luck. Like, we're gonna have to struggle to get everybody else. And then, we sent it to Issa, and Issa signed on. And we sent it to Tracy. Tracy signed on. We sent it to Eric Alexander. Eric, like, it was just started like they were like, yeah, Sterling's doing it. Issa's doing it. I was like, what? Just started, yeah.
So so great seeing her in a movie like this and in a role like that. Really great.
Yeah, thank you. It was I feel incredibly fortunate.
Yeah. Well, Cord, this has been fantastic, man. I've loved talking to you. I'm talking about the movie to everybody. I hope everybody goes and sees it. It comes out on December 22nd.
December 15th.
December 15th. Okay.
Oh, wait. December 15th limited, and then December 22nd wider, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, we want everybody to go see American Fiction. Good luck to you with the success of the film, and I hope to talk to you again soon, man.
Me too. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking
Thanks a lot, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Right. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.